All right, I'm the flatratemaster. Today we're going to talk about the tools you need to get started as an automotive technician in 2023. All right, so I did a video many years ago and I figured I would do an update video with new tool recommendations and that kind of stuff. If you don't know who I am, I'm the flatratemaster. My name on YouTube. I've been a technician for 28 years and, well, I know a lot about tools. I'm a P10 contributor, so first things first. Toolbox roll cart. You're getting started. You do not need to run out and buy a new Snap-on, Matco, Mac, roll cart, toolbox, etc. Go to Harbor Freight, go to Home Depot, get one of their less expensive toolboxes or roll carts. My best advice is to go to Harbor Freight and get one of their roll carts. They're durable enough for a good bit of time. I don't recommend running out and spending a bunch of money on Milwaukee cordless impacts. They're expensive. You've got much bigger things to buy. Go to Harbor Freight, and this is in Ingersoll, I don't have a Harbor Freight. Go get an air impact in 1/2-inch drive. They're cheap. They'll last you for a couple years at least, and then at that point you can decide whether or not you want to upgrade to an electric impact or something else. Next, you're going to want to get wheel sockets. Now these are sockets that have a protective coating on them, thin wall, so you can get into wheels without damaging them. You can buy them from Astro, you can buy them from Harbor Freight. There's lots of good options out there for those sockets. You don't have to spend a bunch of money to get them from Matco. Speaking of wheels, get a split beam style 1/2-inch drive torque wrench. Chances are, getting into this business, you're going to be doing a lot of rotates. A lot of shops require hand torquing. Now this is a Snap-on. You can get this exact torque wrench a lot cheaper through CDI, who makes it for Snap-on. It's a Snap-on company. You can also get various versions of this from different companies. They're extremely reliable, and even the cheap ones will do fine. I wouldn't necessarily call them super precise. If you don't understand that, look at the dial. Let's talk screwdrivers. Don't spend a bunch of money on screwdrivers. The only screwdrivers I would recommend spending money on is these Vessel Impacta screwdrivers. Get a number 2 and a number 3. That'll pretty much cover you for anything you'll need in the automotive industry, but you don't need to spend a bunch of money on screwdrivers. We're not doing much with flathead screwdrivers. They're mostly used as pry bars, so don't spend a bunch of money on them. Now, speaking of pry bars, it's a metal shaft with a tip on it and a rubber handle. Now, there's reasons to spend more money on pry bars. Now, these are made by Mayhew for Matco. They just put a different handle on them. Biggest reason I bought them from Matco is they're orange, and I can get them warranted if I break them. Mayhew, even Harbor Freight, Craftsman, etc. will do fine for various prying jobs, so don't have to spend a bunch of money on them. All right, so let's talk sockets and ratchets. Sockets, especially in 1/2-inch drive, impact sockets. You can get them from Sunex, Gray Pneumatic. They're all very durable sockets and they will last you a long, long time. Now there is some warranty issues with Gray Pneumatic, but they're cheap enough that chances are if you do actually break one, just buy an individual socket and replace it, because their warranty is through the distributor you bought them through, not through the actual company, so they don't warranty them. Just a side note. But Sunex, great company. If you want to spend a couple bucks more, buy them from them, they'll warranty them. That's a 1/2-inch drive. Now 3/8 and 1/4 inch. Now 3/8, my recommendation is impact sockets for everything. Like my 1/4 inch drive stuff is impact because I use them with impacts. As far as chrome sockets, gear wrench will do fine. You know, they're good quality sockets. You know, if you want to go to impact sockets, you know, Gray Pneumatic and Sunex. The Icon line from Harbor Freight is good as well for ratchets and sockets, by the way. They're made at the Cabo plant. They make really good stuff, so just keep that in mind. Starting out, you're really not going to need much in the way of swivels. Maybe pick up some universals from Gear Wrench. Clip a socket onto them if you do need a swivel. But again, getting started, don't spend that money. Now ratchets, I did a whole video on ratchets, are extremely personal things. This is something you're going to have in your hand a lot. Now my personal preference is Matco. The gear design for this ratchet is also used by Gear Wrench. They used to be owned by the same company. They've since split. The Gear Wrench stuff is really good. You can buy Milwaukee stuff. I tell this to everybody, buy the ratchet that feels best in your hand. You know, I've got big old chunky hands and I pretty much have to have a good grip that is not chrome because I've got big hands. Otherwise it feels like I'm grabbing nothing. So go try out a bunch of ratchets and see what you like. I almost want to say spending money on a Snap-on or Matco or Mac ratchet, if that's what you like, it's probably worth it, but you want a 1/4 inch, 3/8, and a 1/2 inch. Now my preference is a locking flex head. The reason for that is the flex head doesn't get floppy like a regular flex head. There are some that have detents that are a little better, but I prefer locking where the lever is not in the way. But again, your mileage will vary. Stock extensions. This is a Gear Wrench. Buy Gear Wrench. Buy a couple sets of extensions in 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and 3/8. You can Gear Wrench and you'll be fine. That's several years old, by the way, and used on an Impact. So let's talk Torx and Hex. Vim. Done. Buy them from Vim. They make really good stuff, inexpensive, and they're really good. Go buy Vim. Wrenches. Now starting out, I would get a set of gear wrenches, and I mean gear wrenches, with a reversible tab on it, not the one-way one. Now you eventually will need to get regular open end wrenches. I would seriously think about if you've got a tool program at your school, you go Snap-on these. This is one thing where spending the money is definitely well worth it. The Milwaukees also are really good, but they're a little thicker in the ends, so keeping that in mind. Now, the one electric tool that I would recommend you get is an impact driver, and I would seriously look at investing in a battery system. Don't go to the cheapest one you can find. Decide what battery system you're going to go to, whether it be Milwaukee, DeWalt, whoever, and go with that system just to make expansion easier down the line. And get a set of long bits in Phillips and Torx. Hood latch. These are really inexpensive. If you've ever worked in automotive repair, you know hood struts tend to go bad pretty quickly. Get you one of these, because trust me, even if it's just a weak hood strut, put this on there. You don't have to worry about it damaging it and making it worse. And, well, you don't hit your head. Lisle hood prop. Getting back to the, hood falling down in your head, get you a hood prop like this. They're not that expensive. Lisle makes them. Really important for, well, not hurting your head, especially if, like for instance, the prop rod is gone. Happens more than you think. If you're only going to buy one hood tool, buy this, because this is a multitasker. You can put it against the brake pedal, pull the seat forward a little bit, and check your brake lights. Set of channel locks. I prefer the KNIPEX brand. A pair of decent sized vice grips, and a set of needle nose pliers, preferably at least one with a 45-degree bend. This is really useful. Sonics on those. I don't know on these because vice grips now suck. Snap-on's now remaking them, but the vice grips ones are mediocre. Sorry on the vice grips. I don't have a good recommendation other than the Snap-ons because everything else I've tried, well, still sucks. So, and Irwin really sucks. A decent set of regular pliers. Channel locks will do fine. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on those. Just mostly for hose clips, which we'll talk about in a second. Spring clamps. You deal with spring clamps. Newfangled hose clamp pliers that have grooves in them specifically for hose clamps. They're now made by pretty much everybody, so you can buy these cheap. You're going to use these way more than those regular pliers, so buy you a set of those. Side cutters. Really important to get you a good set of side cutters. KNIPEX again. They're not cheap, but they're not real expensive either, so get you a set of KNIPEX. Just this size will be fine. Panel clip tools. Cars are held together with plastic clips nowadays, so you're going to be taking a lot of them out and putting them back. These are the best I have ever found. I will put a link to a lot of these tools in the description, so there are affiliate links, so just FYI, but these are something you really should invest in. Might also pick up a set of various other styles that you think you might need. Pick you up a long set of panel clip tools like this as well. Dead blow from Trusty-Cook. They're the originators. You can buy them online. They're expensive, but not super expensive. And, well, a ball peen hammer in the 32-ounce range. I know I've got a fancy one, but it's a chunk of metal with a wooden handle. You don't have to get real fancy with these. You don't. Dead blow, by the way, in case you don't understand, has steel shot in it, or lead shot. So when you hit something, it just stops. That's what this one is as well. It's a nice feature to have, but starting out, spend your money on other things. Oil filter wrenches and oil filter cups. Now this is something that you're going to have to determine where you go work, what you're going to need. Because if you're working at a shop that does a lot of cars with canister filters, you may need to invest in those sockets. Working at a shop that does a lot of older stuff with screw-on filters, you may need something like this or an oil filter wrench, or you may need to invest in oil filter cups. Just depends on your situation. So when you go to work for a shop, find out what they work on so you can order the appropriate oil filter cups and sockets that you might need. So let's talk lights. You can do a stick light like this one that bends. They're magnetic on the bottom, by the way. You can do a stick light like this one from Milwaukee, neck light like this one from Milwaukee, or you can do a flashlight. Entirely up to you and personal preference. But you're gonna need some sort of light. Gonna need to get you a mirror on a stick that extends, because trust me, you will drop stuff and you will need to retrieve it. You know, you drop a socket, you're gonna wanna get it back. So get you a extendable magnet. All right, so let's talk spark plug sockets. You're a new technician, you may get called on to do a tune-up. Spark plug sockets. Now, my preference is these Matcos that were made by Gear Wrench when they were together. They're now made by somebody else, but the Gear Wrench set is really good, so I will link those as well. But it's spark plug sockets on a swivel. Now, going back to the oil filters, depending on the vehicles you work on, you may also need a 14 millimeter 12 point or 6 point, and I prefer this one from CTA. They're not expensive, but allows you to go into like BMWs that are canted. Air gauge. You're going to need to top off tires. Now, Astro has a really good digital one. You know, you can also get an analog one from like Milton. Analog gauge really doesn't break, so personal preference, but the analog one's going to be a lot cheaper. To close things out, there are some tools you might need in certain shops that I haven't talked about. This is a basic set to get started. So what you may need is you may need, you know, triple squares. You may need inverted Torx, but that's going to be determined on what shop you go work for, what they work on. So just depends on the shop you're going to. Be prepared for that. You may need some additional tools once you start at a place, just based on the cars they work on. So I hope you found this helpful. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.